For maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
Like a wild stallion, a canoe must be kept on a tight rein. The canoe is not a lifeless, inanimate object. It feels very much alive, alive with the life of the river. Difficult rapids are descended slowly. The paddle remains in the water with the weight leaning on the blade for stability and balance. Using pries and draws, the canoe is side-slipped back and forth to line up with the deep water channel. Sometimes the deep water is not visible until very close to the brink of a sharp drop. A strong backwater sculling slows the canoe to buy time to choose a course. A back brace stabilizes the canoe, and the pry side slips the canoe into position above the next deep water channel. Braced against the seat, with the knees spread wide, canoe and canoeist become one. Change sides well in advance of the danger area. That one was late, but lucky. At the bottom of the rapids, it's often necessary to remove some of the dampness picked up along the way. The packs are equipped with plastic liners, so a little water isn't too much of a problem. If the packs are secured only by a tether rather than being lashed in, emptying is much easier. When emptying in shallow water, tilt the canoe past the perpendicular so that only the canoe is lifted and not the water. Never stand in a canoe, someone once said. And the old adage persists even today. Now, it is true that you shouldn't attempt it above a rapid until you're very familiar with the position, but the improvement of the view beyond the brink is considerable. If the deep water channel is not obvious, the rapids are surveyed from the safety of the shore. A sculling draw side slip avoids the possibility of drifting broadside onto hidden rocks. What lies on the bottom of a rapid is written all over the surface. Estimating where the rocks are and the location of the deep water channel is called reading the rapids. The ability to read rapids begins with an understanding of what causes a rapid. Above the rapids, the slow-moving water flows undisturbed. As the drop of the river increases, rocks beneath the surface cause turbulence just downstream. The smooth water flowing over the rock is called a pillow, but these pillows have hard centers. With a further acceleration in the current, the turbulence breaks into waves or rollers that curl towards the rock. The wave isn't much of a problem, but the rock in front of it sure is. An increase in rate of flow causes a corresponding increase in the size of the wave. There is now sufficient depth to float the canoe over the rock, and the downstream wave isn't large enough to worry about. With a further increase in current, evidence of small rocks disappears, while the larger rocks cause proportionately larger waves. If the volume of water is great enough, a souse hole is created. A very difficult obstacle to get through without swamping or rolling. The deep water channel between the rocks resembles a V pointing downstream. A rapid is considered easily navigable if the V's are clearly defined and aligned in such a way that the canoe can follow them. In a larger rapid, the fast water of the V, hitting the slower water downstream, throws up standing waves or haystacks. Size varies with volume and speed of the current. There is usually a procession of them aligned downstream, like a roller coaster. Haystacks are a deep water wave and easily runnable, if not too large. The difference between a haystack and a curling wave caused by a rock is quite obvious, especially if the rock is big enough to cause a souse hole. From upstream, a souse hole appears as a straight line, with foaming water beyond. A place to be avoided in an open canoe, unless it is equipped with a spray deck. But you better not count on it. The spray deck is only a compromise between an open canoe and a specialized whitewater canoe. spray deck helps, but only a good solid brace will get you through a souse hole. Rocks sticking above the surface are easier to avoid, but can be dangerous if you broadside onto one. Here's that moment of panic when the hands go for the gunnels. Keep that upstream gunnel high to avoid swamping and back paddle off into the eddy. In this position, the canoe is irretrievable. The force exerted by the canoe against the rock is almost a ton. Between the rock and the canoe is not a good place to be. A swamp canoe in shallow rock-studded rapids is a killer. Stay well upstream and out of the way. Canvas canoes break up faster, but they do have other advantages, like kindling a fire before the long walk home. Not all rocks are bad, though. You'll find eddies of calm water behind them in the midst of the worst of rapids. To break into the eddy, pass the rock as closely as possible. Reach out and plant the paddle in the eddy and draw the bow around into the calm water. The canoe can be held in the back eddy as long as you want. To leave the eddy, stick the bow out into the current, hold the stern in the eddy while leaning downstream in a flat brace, and allow the surge of the current to do the turning. A curling wave stretching part or all the way across the river indicates a ledge. The difficulty of running a ledge varies dramatically with changes in the water level. The ledge in low water. The same ledge in medium flow conditions and in spring flood. In high water, there is no danger of hitting any rocks. The problem is staying afloat in the haystacks. In low water, a ledge can be run only if there is a gap in it, indicated by a V of deep, fast water. If the depth of the water is questionable, the packs are removed to increase buoyancy. A 50-foot recovery line is a good idea, but it can be dangerous. Floating rope cuts the risk of entanglement, and a belt knife is nice to have just in case. The rope is stowed away tightly with only a few feet left loose. For running rapids, a good life jacket is about as indispensable as a couple of traveling companions to assist in case of injury. In low water, take it slowly in case you hit something. In high water, the problem is to break through the curling wave without swamping. The pack sacks help to stabilize the canoe, but at the expense of buoyancy. In spring flood, the greatest danger to the canoeist is the deadly cold water. A wetsuit top must be worn next to the skin. Failure to hit the apex of the V almost rolls the canoe, but a paddle brace into the wave keeps the canoeist dry. Another rapid in full flood. It is caused by a 4-foot ledge extending all the way across the river. In low water conditions, it is very easy because of a break in the ledge which forms a perfect V. In low water, the ledge is no problem. In high water, it's a killer. Several people have died in this rapid, not because they tried to run it, but because they were swept into it by accident. In high water, the approach to a chute can become very dangerous as the water races to the brink. The most important maneuver for wild river canoeing, the eddy turn. It's called eddying out. It enables you to get off the river when you don't like what you see up ahead. If the portage is on the other side of the river, the canoe can be ferried across the current. The upstream ferry is the strongest. The canoe is propelled forward against the current and then drawn across the river at a slight angle. The force of the current on the side of the canoe assists in the ferry. Lean the canoe downstream and use the back eddies behind the rocks. For a more aggressive but risky method of crossing the current, power out of the eddy and across the current as quickly as possible. Finish the traverse with an eddy entry on the opposite shore. The back ferry is used if a downstream run is to follow. The upstream end of the canoe must be unweighted by moving forward, or it will swing around in the current. Backwater sculling holds the canoe upstream at the proper angle while making the traverse. When the canoe is in the desired position, the downstream run begins. The more portages you can put between yourself and civilization, the greater the sense of stepping back into time and history. It's a good feeling and worth all the difficulties. The wilder the river, the less likely you'll run into people like this. If not enough people know or care about wild rivers, the ones that still remain will soon be gone too, silenced forever. As the river narrows between rocky shores, roller coaster haystacks indicate deep, fast water. Where it widens out again, we find haystacks rolling and breaking upstream. Rocks hidden in the haystacks betray their presence. And extending out from shore, a ledge. In low water, the rapid is not difficult. But in high water, most of the river funnels into a souse hole caused by the ledge. Over on the right, the rock garden that was exposed in low water is now buried. The strategy is to hang tight to the right shore. Three feet more to the left, and it's game over. The purpose of a wilderness journey is not to get from the top of a river to the bottom, but to enjoy the river and adapt to its ever-changing moods by poling, lining, wading, and portaging. A cord tied permanently to the center thwart quickly secures the blade ends for portaging. The canoe is lifted in 3 stages. Stand it on edge with one hand on the center of the thwart. Heave it up onto the thighs and grab the far gunwale. Then roll it up, step under it, and you're off. One of the dangers of running rapids is that it's habit forming. This rapid could easily be portaged, but there is something alluring about a difficult rapid, and you can't help wondering if you shouldn't try. There is a limit, though, to what is possible in an open canoe. The really big stuff is for covered whitewater canoes, along with crash helmets and rescue crews. This is one of those borderline rapids. It's a long one, and there are sluice holes. However, the downstream V's are there, even if somewhat obscure and hard to read. But with someone along to help pick up the pieces, the lure is irresistible. Staying clear of the canoe is a swimmer's first concern. The second is keeping the feet up near the surface to avoid entrapment between rocks. Given the choice, swim to shore as soon as possible. Failing that, don't attempt to recover the canoe until you reach deep water. Whitewater techniques can make a difficult rapid navigable, but the risks can never be completely eliminated. Most canoeing organizations are against canoeing alone. And they're probably right. The recreational paddler is well advised to travel in the company of other canoeists, especially when paddling solo. Even though prospectors and trappers often live to a ripe old age paddling alone, it is unlikely they would have been fooling around in long, dangerous rapids. The age of the canoe as a vehicle of trade and commerce is gone forever. Today, the canoe has become a means of rediscovering the natural world. And like the Ojibwe and Cree before us, there should be no evidence to tell that we have passed this way, other than the imprint of our feet along the Portage Trail. The ancient highway of the Huron and Iroquois begins where the road of the white man ends. A highway that provided not only transportation, but also food for the body and the spirit.
Want a refill? No, thanks.
We no longer need the fish and beaver to assure our survival, but the free-flowing rivers can still provide a spiritual link with the natural world. A spiritual link that seems to have eluded us in the taming of the wilderness. But for many, the search has just begun.
Slow down a little, Paul. We're going too fast. We're not
Just take the eddy turn over to the right there.
Okay.
That looks good.
Let's take it over there.
Hold it tight. Let's look it over.
That doesn't look too bad over there.
Yeah, but I'd like to look it over from shore, though, I think. Oh, that doesn't look so bad. We can squeeze it through there.
Yeah, but that ledge isn't as deep as it looks.
You know, I think you're right. But see, there's the main problem. You'll have to... The risks are still here, but the element of danger diminishes with whitewater skills. By studying the surface of the rapids, it's possible to know where the rocks lie and plan a course to avoid them. Rocks beneath the surface betray their presence by a curling wave lying just downstream. A shallow rock will damage the canoe. A rock that is lying deeper isn't much of a problem, but the downstream curling wave sure is. The deep water channel is indicated by a V of dark water pointing downstream. Waves or haystacks pile up as the water surges through the gap. They are a deep water wave. The waves to avoid are those foaming stationary ones that curl upstream. They are caused by rocks near the surface. A straight hard line across the river, followed by foaming white water, warns of a ledge. A typical downstream V indicates a safe passage. The small standing waves or haystacks are no problem. But in a deep, fast rapid, haystacks must be taken off to one side to avoid swamping. Sometimes the haystacks are very difficult to avoid. Although a deep water haystack can be a lot of fun in a short rapid, they should not be attempted in a long one. Swamping near the top could result in a long, dangerous swim. The water in a swamp canoe weighs almost a ton. In a 6-mile-an-hour current, the canoe exerts a pressure of 3,000 pounds. Between a rock and the canoe is not the place to be. Getting smashed against a brick wall by a Volkswagen is a pretty good way to describe how it would feel. As skill and knowledge grow, so does a healthy respect for flowing water.
Pull! Don't worry, I got it.
There's a ledge just below there.
Yeah, I
Let's
see
take
it.
it. Eddy turn right. To the right. The eddy turn to shore makes it possible to get off the river when you don't like what you see up ahead and you need time to look it over.
It's a long one, boy.
Yeah, and tricky. Listen, let's try a ferry right over there. To reach the opposite shore, the canoe is side-slipped across the current at an angle, so the sidewash on the canoe will assist in the traverse. The bowman must not let the current swing his end downstream.
Just set her in there behind that rock. That current's
To turn around, the bow sticks his nose out into the current, while the stern holds his end in the eddy. For back ferrying or setting, the stern paddler must lighten his end by sliding forward.
It's going to move the weight forward a bit.
The advantage of the back ferry is that you are always ready for a downstream run.
How's it look? I don't know. It looks pretty tricky. Grab that eddy on the left. do you think?
I don't know. It's pretty tricky.
See, there's a ledge right over there. See the ledge?
Oh, yeah.
Paul, there's a nice chute over there on the left. See, we can take it through right over there.
From the eddy behind a rock, we find the rapids unrunnable. Over on the left, a small chute looks promising. Downstream V's indicate a safe passage. However, below the chute, on the same side of the river, a ledge extends out from shore. The deep water at the bottom of the rapids is on the right side of the river. It all adds up to an interesting problem. The maneuvers required to get through the rapids safely would look something like this. An eddy turn at the top gives the canoeist time to look it over. The canoe is worked through shallows to the chute by the shore. An eddy turn moves the canoe over into the center of the rapids. The canoe is drifted down until past the rock, then back ferried across to avoid the ledge.
See the ledge?
I sure do.
I think what we're going to have to do is back ferry.
Yeah, okay.
But the trouble is, we can't start it until we pass that rock.
Yeah, but if we have to back ferry after the rock, that'd be pretty tricky.
No problem. Just make sure you don't begin the ferry until your stern clears that rock. Okay?
You yell when you want me to start.
Now give me lots of backwater to give me time to get it over. Want to give it a try?
Okay.
Easy, not yet. Okay, drop. Way over, harder, harder.
Okay.
Keep it going, we're doing fine. How's it look, Paul?
If the rapids are easy, they are read from the standing position. The canoe must be aligned with the deep water channel before entering the rapid. At the apex of the downstream V, we find standing waves or haystacks caused by the fast water of the V hitting slower water. With a little practice, it's easy to tell the difference between a friendly deep water haystack and a curling wave caused by an upstream rock.
Hey, looks like big trouble up ahead.
Wow, let's get out of here.
To escape the mainstream, the canoe is side-slipped out of the haystacks and ferried to shore.
Hey, that was great, but did you see what I saw up ahead?
Yeah, I saw it all right.
Side-slipping out of a fast-moving current avoids being carried into dangerous rapids that come up suddenly.
What do you think?
I don't know. It looks pretty tricky.
Portage looks pretty rough. But if you don't want to go down it, you say.
I don't want to go down it.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think. It looks tricky.
Okay, let's look it over from shore. I don't know, Paul. Over there, see? See right in there. There's rocks in there. I think we should take it over.
From shore downstream, the rapids don't look quite so bad. A channel becomes more obvious. The route is agreed upon and strategy planned. The river narrows into a very good example of a chute, but the chute terminates in a ledge. rock ledge is barely visible, but the souse hole leaves no doubt it's there. Over on the right, some haystacks look promising, but a closer inspection reveals curling waves rolling upstream, indicating rocks hidden among them. The route will have to be in the middle between the ledge and the haystacks, but it's a narrow target, only about 3 feet wide. The V next to shore looks good, but it's a bit too narrow. From upstream, a ledge appears as a straight line. The problem is, where is the V?
Hey, what side do you want?
I'm not sure.
Well, you better make up your mind soon. Hey, listen, let's take it slow. We've got to work our way all the way across the river there. Okay, cross draw. Take it across.
Looks good.
By descending slowly, there is time to plan strategy and position the canoe well above the souse hole.
Take it slow. It looks like a big one.
Listen, are you sure you know what's around the corner?
Yeah, it's okay. Just stay right and we'll let you out behind the rock there.
When you're sure there is nothing dangerous around the corner, there are 2 methods of taking it under control. The eddy turn prevents the canoe from being swamped against the rock face. The second method of overcoming the current around a sharp bend depends on a strong backwater. The canoe is drifted around sideways. It's called setting because the stern is set over with a backwater pry. The eddy turn and setting techniques put the canoe in a position to avoid trouble downstream.
Paul. Paul, wake up.
What? What? Wow, what's that?
Yeah, you're gonna like this one, Paul.
I guess we won't be running that one, eh?
Not very likely. We'll just portage to the base of the falls, though. We can get it through the canyon in low water, okay?
Every year, people are swept to their death into dangerous rapids or over falls because they never learned how to make a safe landing in a current. Sideslip the canoe to shore stern first. The upstream paddler makes contact and hangs on.
Hang on to that thing. I don't want to go through there.
I got it.
The downstream man must not grab shore first. Many rivers can be traveled by those who prefer the portage to running rapids. But anyone canoeing a river with rapids or falls should be familiar with all the strokes for making safe landings.
Oh, man.
How long is this one?
It's pretty long, I think. I think it must be almost there now. Oh, wow, I gotta have a rest. Just take it slow, Paul.
You mean we're gonna go through there?
It's okay, we can wait it down.
Getting pretty fast.
Okay.
When the going gets too tough, wading is an interesting alternative to the portage. It's also a good way to learn about rapids. Wading is also a cautious method of approaching an unknown or dangerous stretch of water, especially if it disappears around a corner. Sometimes it's possible to portage the worst part of the rapids and line the rest. A bridle is tied to the stern seat so the pull will be right at the keel line. When working with tracking lines, a belt knife should be worn. It's surprisingly easy to become entangled in the rope.
Should I take the small pack?
Yeah, would you? I'm gonna use the other two for ballast.
The weight must be placed in the downstream end, or the upstream end will dig in and capsize the canoe. Always remember that whether lining, wading, or ferrying, the end pointing upstream must not ride deeper than the downstream end.
Let's both paddle on the left. Start your draw. A little harder. That's it. We're gonna have to get it well past the rocks there. A little harder. A little harder. Okay, now. Take her down.
Normally, you paddle opposite sides, but with both paddlers doing a sculling draw, you can make a strong side slip.
Want to brace for me, Paul? Yeah, this is a big one.
Above a rapid is a very dangerous place to be, and standing is only attempted if thoroughly familiar with the position. But if they look at all interesting, they are surveyed from the safety of the shore.
Take her to shore.
Hey, that sounds pretty wild.
Oh, it's a tough one.
Have you ever run this one before?
Yeah, but it depends a lot on the water level.
The deep water channel is there, but obscure, and there are deep souse holes.
The only way I can see is just this side of the rock. I'll have to keep...
These rapids would rate a difficult 3 on the river classification system of 1 to 6. 1 being easy, and 6 bordering on the suicidal.
I think it's definitely too big for the both of us in those souse holes, Paul. But I think I could sneak it through over there on the right.
I don't know. I think that rock over there is going to be a problem. It's right in the main current.
Oh, I can miss that all right.
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
Good luck. Well, at least it's not very long.
This is about the limit of navigability for an open canoe. But the rapid is short, so a whiteout would not mean a long, dangerous swim. Running solo has the advantage of buoyancy, an important factor in an open canoe in a turbulent rapid.
Hey, Dad, how's this?
Hey, that's nice.
The question might well be asked, why run a dangerous rapid? Why try to relive the past?
Okay, get ready for the pan.
Maybe it's a search for something yet undiscovered during the taming of the wilderness. The white man's way of making a living left little time for looking to nature to feed the soul.
Boy, you really dinged it, didn't you?
It's just a scratch.
That's a scratch. I'd hate to see what you call a hole.
Well, anyway, the hole's in my end, so don't worry about it.
There is a harmony with the natural world that the native people had that we have been slow to discover. And if we're going to give it a try, there is no better way than to canoe a wild river running unharnessed to the sea.
Boy, the rapids are dark and scary at night, eh?
You know, you're right. They do, don't they?
Is there any more big stuff before we get to the lake?
Yeah, but nothing we have to portage. It's a free ride all the way.
Oh, that's great.
in the lake. Come on for supper.